ќе вклучиме веднаш гостин отаде големата бара, односно од преку Атлантикот. Го имаме поранешниот амбасадор на Соединетите Американски држави во Македонија, господинот Филип Рикер. Филип, добро вечер, добре дојде. We can do this on English или може да си позборуваме на македонски?
Добро вечер, Богдан. I wish I could speak Macedonian with you, but it's been a long day already. I think I'm better with English, but голам поздрав на сите од Скопје, туто.
Нема проблем. Not a problem. I'll do only after you give me your answer. I'll do a quick recap in Macedonian in order for everybody here to understand what you have said. Okay.
Okay, and I know so many Macedonians now are speaking English, so I think we'll be fine.
Is the new lingua franca. Само за сите вас накратко после секој одговор на амбасадорот, знам дека сите знаете англиски, меѓутоа постојат некои правила кои што мора да ги почитуваме како национална телевизија, па јас накратко ќе преведам каков одговор ми дал амбасадорот. Okay, so what is the atmosphere over there? Are there any exit polls maybe at the moment? Do you have any favorites from the two candidates?
No, Bogdan, it's really too early here. It is before 6 o'clock. The first polls on the East Coast, where people are voting today in large numbers, they will close in about an hour and a half. And then slowly across the country, the polls will close. I don't expect to see any real results until quite late tonight. And I don't expect there will be a final result tonight or perhaps even tomorrow. You may recall in 2020 when President Biden defeated former President Trump. It took several days. In fact, it was Saturday after the Tuesday election when we finally had a firm result and President Biden was declared the winner.
Накратко, амбасадорот кажа дека е се уште премногу рано, нема никакви бројки, оние излезни анкети за да знаеме дали некој од кандидатите се стекнал со предности. Според него, дури можеби и утре во текот на, значи уште 24 часа можеби би требало да чекаме, поучени од искуството од 2020 година, за да знаеме кој ќе биде следниот претседател на Соединетите Американски држави. Mr. Ambassador, you know the region far too well. You've worked here not only in Macedonia but around Macedonia for quite some time. What do you think? How much will this region be in the focus of the new administration? Any administration, doesn't matter if it's Ms. Harris or Mr. Trump.
Clear, I think this is a crucial election. We really are at an inflection point, and it's an election that may produce, particularly if Vice President Harris wins the election, a new generation of leadership. There are great challenges in the world, and we have great challenges here at home in the United States. We have a very polarized political environment, a very divided country, I think it's easy to say, where our democratic values are being tested, where we have two very different views of the world. And I have to say, I don't think that the Balkans are going to be the top priority for either of the current candidates in terms of foreign policy or their focus. We will continue, of course, to play an important role in the world. I think transatlantic relations will continue to be important, and the NATO alliance should be a clear guidepost for our security. It has, after all, provided a great deal of security and stability for more than 75 years. And having North Macedonia and the other newer members of the alliance as part of that is an important step in the last years. But again, I think it's important that people not overestimate the focus that the United States can give. We've done a lot in and for the Balkans, including helping countries like North Macedonia become allies of NATO and to enjoy the protections and securities of that most successful alliance. We have one candidate, former President Trump, who has declared himself to be more isolationist, to focus on America first, to be a very different approach in terms of prioritizing domestic concerns and taking up that strain of isolationism which has been part of the American psyche over the existence of our country. If we have a President Harris, I think we'll see a continuity of the current administration's focus on alliances and partnerships. And of course, Macedonia is very much a part of that. But Trump presidency would be very much focused on America first, transactional relationships, and that would go for the Balkans or frankly any other country.
Let me do the quick translation. Амбасадорот Рикер, според господин Рикер, вели доколку победи Харис има шанса да се промовира таа нова генерација на лидери, на политичари во светот, се осврна на поларизираното и поделено американско општество. Во суштина вели дека има два погледи на светот денеска во Соединетите американски држави со сема различни концепти. Тој на Доналд Трамп со Америка фрст, односно интересите на Америка на прво место и политиката на изолационизам, како што вели амбасадорот Рикер, и потенцира дека Балканот нема да биде врвен приоритет кога е Америка во прашање и низината политика ширум светот. Меѓутоа се осврна на тоа дека Македонија е сепак еден важен член на НАТО, односно е важно зголемувањето на НАТО и со новите членки. Вели тоа не значи дека нема да има воопшто фокус на Балканот. Америка ќе продолжи да помага на балканските држави и доколку победи Камала Харис ќе има континуитет таа поддршка. Mr. Ambassador, I'm trying to do this as quickly as I can. I must ask you one question. I saw some polls in the past few days, which tend to show that mostly the bigger part of the general public is not satisfied with the way the country is going. And then the Harris campaign insisted all these couple of months while she is the candidate that she is indeed a part of some new generation of leaders, although she's been the vice president for the past 3.5, almost 4 years exactly, to be exactly 4 years. So do you think that the Harris campaign succeeded in convincing the American public that she is indeed much different than former President, then soon to be former President Biden? Do you expect to see the fruits of that effort in a couple of hours? I mean, isn't that some maybe antagonistic message box? The current VP saying that she is a new generation of leader.
Well, Bogdan, I think it's just a simple fact. She's 20 years younger than the other candidate, former President Trump. And of course, one of the big issues early in this election cycle was the question of age and a focus on current President Biden's age and his decision ultimately to withdraw from the race. So I think that is just simply a fact. As you said, all of the polls show that the country is extremely divided and that the election is extremely close. Polls can also be very wrong. We just don't know. In 2016, the election of President Trump was considered a great surprise. They had not expected, through most polling, that he would win. In fact, I think he himself said he was surprised at the time. So that's why we have to wait and see the results. There is a real focus on making sure that the election is conducted appropriately. There have been a lot of efforts to disrupt that by Russian disinformation that our intelligence apparatus has been able to make public and demonstrate efforts to confuse, to distort, to provide videos, for instance, that were not real. and to play on the fears and the issues that have dominated the campaign. There has been a focus for the Harris campaign on democracy and the importance of serving our institutions into the future, the focus on women's rights, reproductive health, and for Trump, the polls have indicated there is stronger support on some of the issues related to the economy. You're absolutely right that polling has continued to show people feel that they're on the wrong track. There's been inflation, but this goes back to the previous administration as well. I think if you examine that, people are dissatisfied, and that's probably why the Harris campaign has focused on not going back, as they say. We're not going back. We're focusing on a new generation, yet strengthening those key institutions of democracy that make America America.
Thank you. Го прашав амбасадорот Рикер дали смета дека е точна пораката што ја праќа кампањата на кандидатката Харис, дека е дел од нова генерација на лидери, иако веќе речиси 4 години е подпредседател на Америка, имајќи предвид дека луѓето на анкети изразуваат генерално незадоволство од патеката кон која е тргната државата. Тој ми одговори дека таа е сепак 20 години помлада од се уште актуелниот председател Бајден, годините дека беа тема во моментите кога Бајден се уште беше кандидат и поради што дојде и до смена на кандидатите, зборуваше за поделеноста во општеството, но и за можноста анкетите да грешат, како што Трамп изненади во 2016 година, анкетите дека не го видоа. Спомна можно дека се чека крајот на изборниот процес, да се види дали можеби нема да има некој руски влијани обид за вмешување некакво во изборната кампања. Зборуваше за темите кои се важни за кандидатката Харис, фокус на демократските процеси, поддршка за жените, нивните репродуктивни права. Тоа се дел од главните пораки, односно теми кои што се дискутира изминатиот период во кампањата. И дека луѓето се оправдано разочарани и незадоволни поради високата инфлација, економската состојба таква каква што е нешто што поранешниот председател Трамп го адресира како порака. Mr. Ambassador, the State Department almost each year in its report for I'm going into Macedonia for a couple of questions and that's it, okay? It mentions the fully disrespect, negation of the Macedonian minority in Bulgaria and its rights. Do you think that the new administration in the States will finally pursue some steps into that direction in order maybe to help for the Macedonian minority in Bulgaria to be recognized?
Once again, I think, Bogdan, you're expecting a United States administration and a president to focus on issues that are really small in the broader agenda. Our embassy, as you know, remains engaged. Our diplomacy is focused. You've had visits to the region and to Skopje from Assistant Secretary O'Brien, the new Deputy Assistant Secretary, and others. Ambassador Aguilar is very active. And I know that's appreciated and respected across the administration. But I think you've got to step out and realize where the world sits right now and what the priorities are for a president. Whoever wins this race has a lot to focus on. And I think it's time that countries in the Balkans, including North Macedonia, are going to need to deal with their issues and focus on what's right for their countries. That goes for many of your neighbors. It goes for countries around the world. The United States has done a lot in the region in the Balkans, and that includes the NATO enlargement, providing security and stability through membership in this alliance. And I was extremely proud after my time in Skopje, but as Assistant Secretary for Europe, to be able to play a role in bringing North Macedonia into the alliance as the 30th member. And I think that's been a positive thing for the country. It gives you a positive profile in terms of investor confidence in a very challenging region in a difficult period in history where you face threats from obviously Putin's Russia and others. And those are the things that we can do. We can be good allies and good partners, and we're going to have to together move forward to face some of these bigger challenges. So I'd suggest that you look at the world in a bigger role, and how dealing with some of these challenges is going to be important for Macedonian interests, for interests of the Balkan region, for Europe, and for the transatlantic relationship in what is a challenging time. We need to focus on economics, we need to focus on challenges like climate, and we need to focus on the security challenges that still remain.
Don't you, the last question, after this question I'll only ask you who will win Pennsylvania, so get prepared for that answer. But before that, since you've mentioned Russia a couple of times, don't you maybe feel that, I'm talking about our problems, Macedonian problems, the EU integration, the problem with Bulgaria, that Russia exactly might meddle into the EU project and the regional stability through some political hand in Bulgaria, because in Bulgaria there are a couple of openly pro-Russian political parties. Even maybe the president of the country sometimes sounds like he's being influenced by those eastern winds.
Look, I think Russia's malign influence throughout the region is well known and well documented. Putin's Russia does not like to see conflicts resolved. They enjoy so-called frozen conflicts. You see what they've done to Ukraine, unprovoked, attacking illegally against the very fundamentals of the United Nations Charter, against the OSCE, attacking a neighbor, trying to change borders, annexing land illegally. These are the kinds of things that do not lead to stability or indeed to opportunities for great prosperity. We've learned so many lessons from the 20th century. It's now the 21st century, and we should be moving beyond these kinds of things and trying to solve problems. I think what has set North Macedonia apart is that you have worked very hard over many years since your independence, with the support of allied partners like the United States, to solve any of your problems. And I've been very proud to participate in that, and proud to see the country, as difficult as it can be, deal with some of these issues. As you point out, it doesn't help to have countries like Russia who want to stir up trouble in the region, and I think everyone has to focus on resisting that and instead focus on moving forward so that you can have greater stability and greater prosperity.
Thank you. Now the final question: who will win Pennsylvania, and could any of the candidates become a president without winning in Pennsylvania?
You know, there are a number of scenarios. I think we can't predict who wins Pennsylvania. The polling showed it was neck and neck. Obviously, with 19 electoral votes, Pennsylvania is an important state, but there are models that could have either candidate winning without that. For instance, if Harris were to win Michigan, Wisconsin, Georgia, and Arizona, she wouldn't need Pennsylvania. She could win Michigan, Wisconsin, North Carolina, and Arizona, and she wouldn't need Pennsylvania. Likewise, Trump could do similar things. So Pennsylvania is crucial. I think if we see a candidate win Pennsylvania, Michigan, and Wisconsin, for instance, that may very well help decide the race. Certainly, if Vice President Harris takes those three states, that would put her over the 270 mark that is required in terms of electoral votes. That is assuming, of course, that there are no surprises or upsets in other states. So we're all going to be watching this closely. I suspect it will take time for Pennsylvania to be fully counted and be able to say definitively we'll see what we know by morning and in the days to come at this very pivotal moment. So I enjoy sharing with you and friends and your viewers across Macedonia and the region this interest in the U.S. election. It is indeed a pivotal time, an inflection point for all of us in history.
I appreciate the time, Mr. Ambassador. Thank you, and for responding to our inquiry on such a short notice. I do wish you and every American citizen for the elections to end in a fashionable style, and you get the new president quite soon, whichever it may be. Thank you, and talk to you in some other occasion.
Благодарам многу, се наубаво на сите.
Да живее Македонија. Бај бај. Се изназборував англиски.